Welcome back, troglodytes, to Would You Rock or Not. Today we're covering one of the more interesting guitars that Gibson has ever produced. These guitars are capable of having many different pickup combinations without the use of a solder iron. Now there's not really an official title for these guitars, I'm just going to call them the demo guitars for this video. These guitars were built to help guitar stores sell Gibson branded pickups. These weren't in every single store. Gibson only sent these to like the top selling stores. Basically, what they did is they took a Les Paul and they routed out a huge chunk of wood on this guitar, and they mounted pickups in a block that would simply just fit right in the guitar. This way, all you have to do is plug and play. It's kind of like plugging a 9-volt battery in. These little connectors right here simply line up to these connectors right there, and when you're ready for something else, you simply just unplug it. Now the pickups that Gibson sent out with these guitars were the 57 Classic in the neck and the 57 Plus in the bridge, P100 style pickups, which are stacked P90s, it kind of cancels the hum. Regular P90s, a 500T bridge pickup. This is a really hot sounding variety. And finally the Tony Iommi signature set. So in total, that's 9 different pickups. So that gives you a ton of different options, because you don't have to set them up in traditional sets. You could put the 57 Plus in the neck, you could put the 57 normal in the bridge, you could mix a P90 with a P100, you could do the P100 with a humbucker. I mean, the possibilities truly are endless on this guitar. Since you don't have to break out a soldering iron every time you want a different sound, these really are fantastic studio guitars. Or for somebody who just always wants to change what their guitar sounds like. Now, these guitars were never necessarily available for public sale. Most of them don't even have serial numbers, and oftentimes they're not even finished guitars. You can see this one doesn't really have much of a finish on it. A truss rod cover was never installed, and it's kind of rough looking on the back. But the whole idea was not to sell the guitar, it was to sell the individual pickups. Now here's the really cool thing about this one that showed up today on Reverb. It's a Les Paul custom. This is the very first one that I've seen be a custom. All of the other ones I've ever seen up until this point have been standards. So they only had single ply binding around the front and they didn't have it on the back. But you can see it was built in a very similar way. And honestly, this one looks more like a classic to me due to the greened inlays. But holy cow, somebody got a fantastic deal on that guitar 3 years ago. It's easily worth twice to 3 times that amount. So finding a Les Paul custom like this is actually fairly rare. It could be the only one for all we know. I've never seen another one like this. But this one sports a $7,000 price tag, so it's probably out of reach for most people. But there is another way if you're interested in owning a guitar similar to this. In 2008, during the Guitar of the Month promotion, in May they did a very similar guitar. They called this one the Push Tone Les Paul. And basically, it's very similar to those demo models, except for it's more finished, it's a little bit more fancy, they didn't route out as much of the body to let the pickups fit in, and it's just a little bit more pretty. But something I don't like about these guitars is the original ones had around 9 pickup options, whereas these ones only got 4 pickups. They got 2 Burstbucker Pros and 2 P94 pickups, which are humbucker sized P90s. So it's a little bit sad to see that your tonal options are more limited on this model. However, I'm sure any competent luthier could hook you up with a bunch of other different pickups with a similar styled mount. However, since they didn't do the large pickup routes, you wouldn't really be able to do a P90 sized pickup, and that kind of ruins the whole point of this guitar. So the push tone is more limited in that way, but in what ways is it superior? It has a very nice flame maple top with a mahogany back and a 50s styled mahogany neck. But these are like the ultimate player's guitars because they come stock with locking Grover tuners, Tone Pro's locking bridge and tailpiece, and a locking Neutrik jack. Now personally, I'm not a fan of these locking jacks, but maybe it's just because I don't gig. I normally don't have the issue of stepping on my lead and it coming out, but for a gigging musician, that might be an awesome feature. Another plus is you have an ebony fretboard. So this is kind of stylized after a Les Paul standard, so an ebony fretboard was definitely an interesting choice. But here's something very few Les Pauls have. It's a maple trapezoid inlay. So you don't have that pearloid material, it's actual wood. I believe they also did this on the Les Paul tribute guitar called the Les Paul All Wood. Now, depending on your opinions, this might be a downfall. It's chambered and you have PCB electronics. But something I wish they would have done on all of these guitars is have a Jimmy Page styled wiring harness. That way you could coil split the pickups that were able to do that, and you could do an in and out of phase tone. Maybe they could have even had one that did series and parallel. That would be a whole mess of tonal opportunities, especially if they would have done that on the demo models. Because you'd have 9 different pickups, and then with every pickup you have 5 different options. You would be in tonal heaven once you find the ones that you like. I kind of wish Gibson still had one of these in all of their top selling stores, because I think it really is an interesting idea that they've kind of let go too much. However, now they have the whole PCB electronics, so it's kind of quick connect. So basically every Les Paul has become just like these. But there's just something special about not even having to open a control cavity for these. Now there's not a lot of good tone samples of these guitars, but here is what I found. So in the end, these original demo Les Pauls, they really intrigue me simply because they can fit not only humbuckers and P90s, but pretty much any style of pickup that you would want. And that's kind of what the push tone didn't quite get right. The only question left, would you rock a demo Les Paul or not? Leave your answer down in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.